next speaker with me, Dr. Thomas George. Dr. Thomas George is a very known face in Kerala, and he is a very acclaimed international trainer, and he is the chairman of Lead College of Management. Dr. Thomas George has a very unique credit to it, credit, that is, he is honored with the title of Guinness World. Is a Guinness World Record holder for the longest business lesson for a duration of 72 hours. A very big feat indeed. And to talk about Lead College of Management, the incredible performance of Lead College of Management has taken its success graph to the zenith, and Lead has been appreciated by a multitude of state and national level agencies. PricewaterhouseCoopers named Lead as the 6th emerging B school in India. And closer home, various popular Indian journals and magazines have also given Lead the honor of being featured. And Lead has been placed 5th in the higher education review among the institutes providing industry exposure, and they are ranked 49th in All India ranking of business schools by Business India. They have been doing a lot of things in and around Kerala, and when it's a very good model. In fact, when most of the business schools are shutting down, there is one institute which is looking for growth. And we could see that Lead has come out with a consortium of business schools under a brand of LeadX, which we'll be talking to Dr. Thomas a bit later. But we'll like to have your views on this particular topic of emerging opportunities and emerging challenges in education and empowerment. Over to you, Dr. Thomas.
Thank you, Dr. Vineet, and thank you all the speakers and indeed all the listeners. I'm so happy that I got this topic on empowering the students. In fact, if you look at the history of education in India, we had the old Gurukula system, and then it is during the industrialization that education came. So what we had to do is that there was not much of thinking to be done. You are to tighten a nut, means you keep on tightening a nut throughout your life. So this was the education system which was imparted. But of late, the ones who brought in this education system, they changed, but we still hang on with the old system. I'm happy that, the new national education policy is bringing a lot of changes. In fact, I am very much excited about the T-shirt which wrote, I was born intelligent, but my education ruined me. Yes, definitely, the education system ruined us. Basically, what is an education meant for? What is education meant for? It is to help people to think, one, and to take effective decisions. Basically, to think and to take effective decisions. Thinking, in fact, I am reminded about in one seminar, somebody asked this question, I'll ask that question. I can get a quick chat. Okay. The question pattern, how it is in India, is I'll ask the question. Please type the answer fast. Everyone, be ready. The question is 4 plus 5 is equal to dash. Fill in the word. Fill in the blanks. 4 plus 5 is equal to dash. What is the answer? 9. Sachin says 9. 9. 9. Good. The answer is 9. And this is the pattern of question in India. What's wrong in it? Thank you. Thank you, Kailas Natak, Neetu, Vishnu, everyone. What is the wrong in it? No, this is wrong. Then what's the right? I'll give you the question. Now we'll have to again start typing. Dash plus dash is equal to 9. 3 plus 6 is equal to 9. 6 plus 3 is equal to 9. Very good. 1. 8 plus 1, 1 plus 8. Only Vaishnav is there. The rest also, please start. 7 plus 2, 2 plus 7. Abhi sir. Then. Oh no, dash plus dash. Dash plus. Okay, great. 0 plus 9 is 9. 9 plus 0 is 9. Great. 5 plus 4 is equal to 9. 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. Then. Oh, great. Vaishnavi, you said 8.9 plus 0.1. 12 plus minus 3. Now, when you had to answer this, did you have to think? This is the purpose of education. When I asked you the question, thank you all the ones who supported. Earlier, when I asked what is 5 plus 4, you said 9. You never had to think on it. Now, you had to think. for more answers. In fact, this is the purpose of education, to make you think and taking effective decisions. This year, if you look at the Nobel Prize also, even like auction theory, there's a theory which has come. Auction is not a luck. Earlier, Sunil sir was telling there's a luck. I'm not denying that, but it's not all luck. There's a logical reasoning for why that decision is taken. So from industrialization, where you're not to think, now managerial thinking, to the next part, which I'll talk about, is the entrepreneurial thinking. Entrepreneurship. Let me tell you, this is something which is really lacking, especially with Kerala. I asked my students, I asked, like, how many of you want to be businessmen? So many hands came up. Then I asked, how many of your parents are interested in you becoming entrepreneurs? Hardly one or two. The entrepreneurship culture is not there in India to a greater. I'm not saying every place it's localized. Again, I'll tell you, it's localized in each place. In regional wise, it changes. Most of the people are very conversant, if they're very comfortable if they get a government job. At least a good IT or any good job. But then, what do you do there? You execute what is being taught, discussed, and given to you as decision. You're really utilizing your power when you think and you come out with decisions. So the education system has to change. When we talk about the education system in Bloom's taxonomy, the lowest one is the remembering and the understanding. And that is what we carried on for all these years. Right now, we are thinking about going up creativity or creating. Yeah, that's exactly what Dr. Suresh was saying, creating. Like, we do not to create. We say like, okay, you tell us what to do, we will do it. From there, having your own concepts and then, bringing out, creating through researches and various things. This is exactly the need of the hour. In fact, the NEP talks about, critical thinking and creativity as one of the tests. It's a great part. I'm really happy on that. They also talk about boost logical decisions, innovator, etc. Why is it that the students here do not love to go to schools and colleges? Again, I am talking about one more story. I don't know where it happened. In a school, the students could wear T-shirt or color dress, not a uniform. On, I think, one Saturday, they can wear that. And one day, few students came with a T-shirt. One boy came with a T-shirt on a yellow T-shirt. In that, it was written, "I love my school." So the next week, few more T-shirts came. Few more students wore this T-shirt which said, "I love my school." And in few weeks' time, the entire school, it was a uniform on Saturday, everyone wore this T-shirt which said, "I love my school." And that is exactly where the time when the teacher noticed there was a small, one more line under that. It was written, "I love my school." Under that, it was written, "when it is closed." Because there is nothing challenging here. The education system, I'm so happy, Nagesh Rao sir has clearly pointed out. We were talking about, like throughout studies say, the least effective methodology of teaching is lecturing. And so sorry to say, 95% or above, the teaching happens in lecturing itself. And the teachers wonder why, what is the problem? Why students are not interested? I am lecturing so much, I am taking a lot of strain. But then we are not giving what the students require. This national educational policy, well written, well drafted, all fine. But this has to be imparted through our existing teachers, which includes me, Vinit sir, everyone, each one of us. It's a big challenge. I think the biggest challenge for us is that area of how to impart this thinking, critical thinking, logical thinking and all, and making students to take decisions. That is the greatest challenge, and that gives us a lot of opportunity also. Basically, I think each teacher, including all of us, start thinking on how we can make our students think and take effective decisions. That will be the greatest part. Let the decisions go wrong. Let the decisions go wrong. I'll tell you, when some of my students wanted to do a business, I saw the parents saying, business, he's got good job. Okay, fine. And the first time they failed, they said, okay, enough, now stop, come back, come back. I do not know how Eldo came to this level. From 2003 years, you've been holding on, all right. The family support, the ecosystem here, I asked them back the question, when your kid was walking during the younger days, he fell so many times. What did you do? Yeah, come up is the word you used. Unfortunately here, this ecosystem, especially with the teachers and the society, we need to change a lot. And then national education policy will do wonders in the country. Exactly like what Dr. Suresh said about the research, is basically to think. I remember when I went for my PhD, they asked, what is the, which theory you have taken? Something they asked me. I said, no, it's mine. No, how can you do that? I said, that's what research is. No, it should be based on some theories. I said, yes. Whose theory? I said, it's my theory. It was very difficult, let me tell you. So that is the area where we will, it's a big challenge, but that's the greatest opportunity. And that's the great excitement also that, thank you. We'll go on to the questions a little later as Vinit sir says. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Thomas sir.
Yes, sir.
And my first question to you, would be to Nageshwara sir. So he talked about NEP and how the new national education policy is going to be a game changer. Everybody is eagerly waiting for its implementation. Now, I would like to ask you, sir, because you have been a part of a big panels and at the government level also. Now, what are the challenges faced by Indian universities and education institutions? We had at some point of time, we had one of the best universities. I'm talking about a bit earlier. So, and then suddenly we could see that all our institutes are doing well. But when you look into the top rankings, okay, so like for example, if you look at the QS top universities list, IIT Bombay is ranked 152. And if you look at the Times Higher Education ranking, Indian Institute of Science is ranked among top 300 to 350. But none of our institutes, be it IITs or IIMs, even if when they're doing a very good job, they don't feature in top 100. So how can this, anomaly be rectified? How can the Indian institutes do well? What would be your take on it, sir?
I think we are conscious about these rankings only 3 to 4 years back. I do remember in 2015, for the first time, it has been talked about by the President of India. We were also present over there. And then in our country also, NIRF has come up only 3 years back. So once we are conscious about it, then we do it. Because as a student of management, what I learn is, what are your goals? Your goals were not clear at that point of time. And once you are having clarity about your objectives, you have to look at the rankings, then it's okay. International ranking, it's okay. QS ranking, it's okay. So we all can achieve everything because we are all having everything with us. Infrastructure, capacity, research, everything is with us. The only thing we have to reorient. And these ranking parameters, they have been developed by the Western countries. And they do have a different set of population, geographical context, the demography, the terrain, so many things they are different from here. So that variations will definitely affect us. And we have to develop our own set of benchmarks also for us, specifically when we look into that the way with major resources. One of my panelists has clearly pointed out that research funding is very, very low. Our infrastructure also, once you look into it, that is also not at par with the international level of standards. Why I am telling you? Because look at the population of any of these countries. Look at the population of ours. Look at the per capita income, per capita GDP. So many things are there. So we should not worry about it. You wait for 2 more years, you will find everything. We are in the top 10 or top 5. There is no problem at all.
So when Rao sir talked about research, so my question would be to Dr. Suresh. Now you could see that when you talk about research, there is a huge gap you could see between academic research and the need of the industry, because at one end, like, people go behind publications, everybody is behind Scopus, they are behind ABDC journals, and we could see that they might be getting good citations, but half of that probably is not relevant to the industry. I'm talking from a perspective of how many models have come out from India. Like probably the most talked about model would be the CK Prahalad's model. Apart from that, like what are we, like where are the models? So in that perspective, I just want to ask you, like, how are you what do you call it, Great Lakes, doing research, and how are you focusing on this particular aspect?
Sure. Thank you, Vineet. I think so. The way I would look at research in general is there is room for research which is relevant to today's needs. There's also room for research which is relevant to tomorrow's needs. And quite often what we find is that academic research leads industry relevant research or societally relevant research by at least a few years. I'll give you one simple example of this. Today, anybody is familiar with Richard Thaler's work on what is called nudging, right? Last year's Nobel Prize winners, Esther Duflo, and so basically they also talked about behavioral nudges and behavioral economics, right? And behavioral economics emerged as a field almost about 20 or 30 years ago, more than that, in fact. Richard Thaler, Danny Kahneman, Amos Tversky, they all were pioneers in this area of behavioral economics. And for many years, economists in academia also tended to poo-poo that research, saying that, this is not real science. Fast forward, today the government of India and various state governments are actually implementing some of these things at a policy level in some of the villages in this country, trying to influence behavior in such a way that people can be persuaded to do certain things. When it comes to, for example, healthcare, when it comes to financial literacy and variety of different things. So what I would argue is that not all research needs to be immediately relevant. There is some research that definitely needs to be relevant to industry because that is really what industry is looking for. And there is, at Great Lakes, for example, we recognize research as research, right? It doesn't matter whether it is applied research or whether it is basic research. All research is research, as long as it contributes to what we would call a body of knowledge. Okay, so if it is published in Harvard Business Review, which is more applied, and that is something that industry would pick up, fantastic. If it is published in a top tier FT50 journal, which is much more academically oriented, all power to you. So I am agnostic, and at Great Lakes we are agnostic about where it is published, as long as it is some new knowledge that is being created. And that is really how it should be, because it is not a zero-sum game. It is not that industry research should come at the cost of academic research or vice versa. Both types of research have their own place. And together, and this is to the point about rankings, it is research that gets the greatest weightage on international rankings. You take the QS rankings, for example, or the Times Higher Education rankings. Why is it that we don't feature? You ask this question about why is it that Indian Institute of Science or IIT Bombay is still lagging some of the other institutions. Part of it is simply because of the fact that we are not publishing enough. And that is important, because if you aim to be a global player, if you aim to actually have a footprint around the world and reputation, you need to play the game according to the way it has been dictated, rather than create a new game for yourself.
Thank you, Suresh sir. And I would like to ask Rao sir on one particular thing. That is, when you look into the changing model, like the teaching learning model has has changed a lot in the last 6 months or so because of the pandemic. And the brick and mortar institutions, suddenly you see that there are no people. You don't have students, you don't have faculty, and it's more like, looks like a ghost house. So now, how are the institutions across India, like they'll have to work in the future? And especially I'm talking in the context of foreign universities breaking barriers and coming into India, and this what you call, because of the digital platform, education can be accessed anywhere, or you can have your degree or your diploma from anywhere. Anybody can take any classes from anywhere in the world. So how are the Indian education institutions going to evolve? What would be the challenges?
COVID-19 has changed lots of attitudes. Our own attitudes, they were changed during this period. Blended learning, it has come up as a big mode. Now everyone has to go for it. Whether it is an ODL institution or it is a conventional institution, they all have to go for it. Program-based learning is to be replaced with a course-based learning. And we have to see that wherever possible, we have to go for the reservoir-based learning, that is e-resources or video-based and other things. Wherever it is not possible, practical-based courses, technology-based courses, we must use our resources judiciously for that. For all these things, we have to change our mindset, because mindset is still with us. Still, we are the people who have learned the things in their old own way. We still always convince to us that we are the best people who can suggest what is to be done for future. If we have cleared an examination by writing 5 essay type answer questions, then still we feel that that is to be pursued in future also. As it has been pointed out by someone, that continuously we are talking to our learners without knowing what they want. That is why learner-centric approach, our entire pedagogy, it should be learner-centric. What exactly they want, how that is presented before them. And if that is not being taken into account, the result will be like that. And that is why in our earlier education policies also, no effort has been made to implement it properly. So that is why even UGC also a week back has constituted 10 panels to have 10 issues on which the implementation plan is to be outlined by the UGC. Because how to go for it? Simple policy document may not help us. And if we start looking into those policy documents, they may not be clear to us also. They may put lots of confusions also. But how to implement it, what university can do it, what state can do it, what center can do it, what educational planners administration can do it, if that is being spelled out clearly, then we all can walk on that path much more faster way. And that is why the things are moving in that direction. So we are on the right track. And at least still people who are at the helm of the affairs, their mindset is to be trained, to be reoriented, and they must start looking into it. Still we feel the 3-subject BA course, most popular subject, is to be carried on. No need to add any skill component. Soft skills, still they are not being given importance. Why the management has got good results? Why the MCA has got good results? Because we changed ourselves to suit the requirements of the industry, suit the requirements of our society, suit the requirements of our learners. So pedagogy is to be changed, content is to be changed, and our goal is also to be changed. Multidisciplinary, what does it mean? It will promote the brain power. It will strengthen the brain power. And that is why it will lead to the innovations. And that focus is now being reflected in our entire national education policy. So thing is that change, we have to accept it. And we all, since most of us are representing management stream, resistance to change and how to go for changes, so many things are there. Change management is also there. So we all know that how to go for it, and we are confident that we will do it. I hope that this will serve the purpose of your question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rao, sir. My next question to you is to Dr. Thomas. In the sense like we are talking about change, and there's a big change that is due. And in that, when you talk about change, the students who are studying in these education institutions would definitely require a new set of skill sets. It was reflected in the talk by Professor Sunil and also by Dr. Suresh on when he talked about research. Nageshwar sir also focused on this point. So what are the new skill sets, according to you, which the students would be required to in the emerging opportunities and challenges?
Sir, basically, if you look at earlier, when we look at placement, students were picked by the company based on 2 alphabet, which was IQ, intelligent quotient. Then probably we saw the shift to EQ, emotional quotient, to SQ, spiritual quotient. Right now, people are talking about AQ, that is adversity quotient. How much will you, be able to withstand the adversities which are coming up? Later, I mean, earlier we spoke about, not here, somewhere else, we spoke about the black swan, etc. Like these uncertainties are coming out like anything. How much can a student face that is the question. Whereas our pedagogy, as Nagesh Rao sir was telling, it is more on a conformity. Okay, it is like this, it is like this, it is like this. And conformity is not what is existing in the world. That's not what is required. So that is where the creativity and all such things need to be, and they should be exposed to whatever adversities or, whichever uncertainty is possible. That is what is required, and who can withstand that. Like Charles Darwin's theory, we talk about, like here, that is the existence. I think that is what is required now. Thank you.
So like when you talked about adversity and people have to face challenges,
yes,
okay, I'm asking Mr. Eldo a very uncomfortable question, okay, in the sense like though like we are all like most of us are from Kerala, okay, and I have seen both the worlds because I was born and brought up in Madhya Pradesh in Ujjain, and I have seen Kerala. Now I always feel that the parents and the kids in Kerala still think very conventionally in terms of their career move. Okay.
exactly.
What I'm trying to say here is the focus in Kerala is still more on government jobs. Okay, you are like write a PSC, get into a government job. So it's like you don't have to work in government. So is that what you call conventional thinking still there in Keralites? How do you address that when you talk about you are running a firm which is more into counseling? So we need more wealth generators. So, Mr. Eldo, your comment on that.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Vineet. Yeah, so I think things have drastically changed. Is where I would, start off that answer. Yes, earlier there was a lot of, parental pressures and all that. But having counseled, and our firm has counseled hundreds of students, I really think the parents are stepping back. That's the trend I see, not always, but yeah, I on a general level, I see that there are reasons for that. See, I think earlier, there is information at fingertips now, right? Earlier, it wasn't the case. And, the students also relied on their parents to a certain extent to make a good career decision for them, because the parents are the ones exposed to the world of work, and the students accepted it. And the students didn't have the kind of know-how to know what is happening around the world. So earlier, there was more acceptance from the students for the parents to make a good decision for them, because obviously the parents would act in their best interest. But now the things are changing. Parents also understand that they can't keep up with, whatever is happening around, because there's a lot of peer group discussions that happens among the students.
Probably, like just to interrupt you a bit.
Sure.
Now there was a news in the national newspaper very recently when the IIT JEE and NEET results were out. Now it was said that the performance of students, I'm talking specifically from a Kerala perspective,
Sure.
that the performance of students from Kerala in IIT JEE was not up to the mark. We didn't have any ranks at the top, and this was attributed to the focus of parents in Kerala towards NEET. Okay, so still, is there a proper career guidance missing in school level?
So see, I think the problem here is the understanding of what career guidance is. I think, yes, absolutely. To that point, yes, it is absolutely missing in Kerala. I think, our company works in different states, and in Kerala, we have a special problem compared to, let's say, Bangalore. See, the Bangalore problem is everybody understands career counseling. Everybody understands if I talk about, aptitude, personality, interest, we have to match their potential. Those concepts are a little more prevalent and people understand that intuitively. In Kerala, people understand career counseling and the need for that more in terms of placements. People would want to go study abroad. So, which are the universities? So it's always that what and where, right? They never ask the why or who questions, understanding the student, psychometric assessments, things like that is not, well understood in Kerala. So our whole purpose when we came into Kerala was to educate the need for career counseling, taking a step back from placements and understanding, it's all about figuring out who this person is through certain psychometric assessments. Yes, to that point, absolutely. And when I said parents are stepping back, I want to add that, parents also now understand a lot of things are happening around in the industry, a lot of IT changes, advances in technology, a lot of new jobs coming up. So parents can't keep track of it, right? Because they are still stuck in their traditional model of, jobs and things like that. So that's why I feel parents are just letting go a little bit now for the students who are keeping tab of what's happening around. So that is a welcome change that's happening.
Okay. So this is my last question. And last question is towards Thomas, sir. That is like, what would be the role of a regional business school like LEAD in Kerala? Because when you talk about Great Lakes is at a very national level. They have created a niche positioning, and LEAD is trying to position itself in the Kerala market. As I said earlier, when B schools are finding it difficult to fill seats, you are going on and talking to 10 different business schools, putting them on board and creating a brand called LeadX. Can you just talk more about that?
Yes, we have national institutes because each country is different. Each country's policy is different. Everything is different. So there are a lot of common things and there are indigenous things also to be learned. Similarly, when we talk about regional also, the same thing is applicable. Because something which is told in the national level may not be exactly the same thing which is required here. For example, in Kerala, when you spoke about, we had the flood few years back. So that is something specific to Kerala. This is not something specific to some other states. For something which is for them need not be here. So I'll give you one simple example. As you know, in digital marketing, I used 3 people from Tamil Nadu to do the digital marketing, premium ones, and unfortunately it did not sell well in Kerala. But because the Kerala market is different, the flair, the liking, everything is different. So in Kerala itself, you may find this difference. But then, so I strongly recommend, like we have the national level institutes, which is national, we need to have Kerala or regional level also, because the culture, the people's interest, everything changes, and there is a lot of things which can be given like that. And the concept which you told about LeadX is very simple. Like there are so many colleges in Kerala who are finding it very difficult to get students placed, give trainings, etc., because there are limited students. So for them to invest money in training and getting companies for placement and all those activities are very hectic. In fact, there is a lot of requirement of placement for the companies. So this is more of licensing on all these things on a common platform, or in better words, we say in management terms, collective bargaining. We can give more to the students. The colleges also are benefited. The companies are also benefited. I think it should, in long run, develop an ecosystem in Kerala, which will boost the management education. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas, sir. So with that, we are coming to the end of the whole session. Now, so the session started off with Dr. Nageshwar Rao setting the tone for it, where he discussed the new education policy and how the change is going to come up. And it was followed up by Professor Sunil Kumar, who talked about the change should happen from the school level, and it is not at the higher education level. So there are a lot of things which we have to do at the school level, and probably the new education policy also talks about that at a very macro level. And every panelist agreed to it that it's not enough to bring out policies, but it is also very important, the effective implementation of it. And it was followed up by Dr. Suresh Ramanathan, who talked about the importance of research. In the research, like how you are making people think, and those research should be path-breaking. And we also talked about how what you call the institutions are not coming up in the rankings, because one of the most critical element of any ranking for that matter is research. And it is taking time for India to develop what you call the Indian academicians to come up with good models. But as Nageshwar Rao sir said, it's a matter of time when the institutions in India will also catch up, because we probably catched up late when you talked about rankings or participating in QS rankings or Times Higher Education rankings. So it's just a matter of time. And Dr. Thomas and Mr. Eldo focused on the skill aspects of it, and how the new generation would require specialized skills. And as Professor Sunil talked about, the change or the transformation should come from the school level. So there is a very critical role of a teacher, not being a teacher, probably being an instructor or a facilitator or a mentor. So that those type of what you call thinking will have to be brought out at a school level itself, so that our students are prepared at the higher education level. And probably, I think then only the government's vision of higher enrollments at the higher education level would succeed. And let us all wish that all what we have discussed forms the crux of the future growth. And I think Times of India is documenting it. They're going to come out with a feature on this. So let it what you call reach to maximum people. There are a lot of people watching on Facebook. Many people are on Zoom. The videos are going to be in YouTube. I think this whole discussion would definitely reach to the right people, and it will make the right noise. On that note, I would like to thank all the panel members, Dr. Nageshwar Rao, my guru, who has been very kind enough to come here and talk to all of you. Dr. Suresh Ramanathan, who accepted our invitation. Professor Sunil, in spite of his busy schedule, he made it a point that he came here. Dr. Thomas and Mr. Eldo, very nicely held panel discussion. And thank you very much to each one of you for your contribution.